Bring me everyone.
You mean everyone?
Everyone! Yes. I don't get it.
Get away from her, you bitch!
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Welcome, everybody. My name is Thomas, and if you've been following the channel for a while, then thank you. And we're going to try something new tonight. So I'm trying to get on a normal routine where I actually start doing actual videos on hopefully a weekly basis, maybe a bi-weekly basis. But I want to start doing some live streams to talk about things that I love, which is more than action figures. It's anything nostalgia. This channel is called Thomas Goes Nostalgic, so I want to dive deep into those different topics outside of toys. What made the 90s great? I'm a 90s baby. That was my bread and butter. But to join me, I've asked a really good friend who is actually my Gen X 80s lover, and I'm going to pull him in right now, and that is my good friend Victor. Victor.
Cheers. Hello. Good to be here. I'm excited about this too. So, by the way, 80s lover. That's careful how you state that.
That's right. So, Victor and I have been friends for a while, and we're from two separate generations. So, just the premise, I'm your resident millennial, born in 87. So, I got to experience the late 80s and all of the glory of the 90s, but then also sort of the fun times of the 2000s, if that existed. I don't know.
There were some.
Yeah. But with you, I know a lot of your interests, not all, but I know that there is some crossover. So Victor and I have done a show together before, and we thought, why don't we hook up and actually start making a routine of this? All different topics, not just toys, but all things nostalgia, 80s, 90s, maybe even before that, after that, whatever it is. So first off, I'm going to let you introduce yourself. What I want to know is, tell me everything about you. Tell me about your interests, your channel. You have a pretty successful channel, I'd say. What does everybody need to know if they haven't seen you before?
Oh, thanks so much. The Gen Experience. So being like you said, as a millennial, I am truly born in the middle of Gen X, that generation. So I feel really good that I have this great 70s and 80s vibe. And yeah, just bleeding into the 90s. I'm a big proponent. I talk about a lot on my channel where there is overlap with the young millennials and Gen X because there's a lot of similar things. And I'm not just talking toys. I'm talking about life in general. There's still some things that you had as a kid or did as a kid that so did we. So the Gen Experience, I like to say, is a salute to all Gen X, but most often toys. So it is often toys. And a lot of my show is about that, but that's not it. It is about the entire experience, what we went through. So I have a successful channel only because of you. I've been watching your show since you debuted as well. You're the one who kind of got me started. I said, okay, I'll give it a try. So I really appreciate that and have found, minor success. I love it. And so it is, again, a lot of the toys behind me and everything else about the 70s and 80s that I adore and a lot of my audience.
Yeah. And I just want to thank Impossible Pie in the comments. Thank you. It's our good friend, I think, from Canada. So
nice.
Really awesome guy. And it's funny. So Victor and I met at work years ago, and we both used to work at Walt Disney World. And one day I went into his office and I saw a bunch of toys there, and I thought, oh, this guy's cool. Years later, I saw that Victor had a channel, and I thought, oh, what's this about? Started watching it. It was pretty much my groove with all the nostalgic 80s stuff. And then when it came time to start my channel, then you and I went and had lunch, and I said, how do I do this YouTube thing? So anyways, just want to get started on our first live stream. And if you saw in the intro, it said everybody grab a drink. Did you grab a drink, Victor?
I do. I had nothing left today but wine. I wasn't even in the mood, but I got to follow along. So I got some cab.
I know I'm bad influence, but it's Tiki Tuesdays in my house, so I made myself a painkiller.
Next time I'm making something cool. I see some people already in the chat. I'll be honest and really upfront right now. For some reason, I at this point can't join the chat, but that's okay. I see them all. So you, buddy, are going to have to keep up. It looks like is that relative of yours?
That's my brother.
Okay, well, there you go. So Impossible Pie, we're doing well. We hope we're doing well. We hope that after the show even does better. So we'll see.
Yeah. Then we got Captain McKay. Awesome.
I'm glad we don't have to twist your arm. So, by the way, why don't you say in the comments what your favorite drink is? Because mine is actually a Tanqueray and tonic. So I'm very much a gin and tonic guy, probably because that was the first drink that I had at a bar underage that I ordered and nobody questioned me. So I loved it.
Well, I told you to prepare drinks. Not that we're going to get sloppy.
No.
Maybe if we do like a Saturday stream, but it is a...
We do a sloppy stream one day.
I know. Sloppy on a Tuesday is not great for Wednesday.
So. No, that's a good point.
But hey, this is the first, hopefully, of many, and I really wanted this one to be a get to know you live stream. I think in the future we're going to talk all things, what's new and relevant in movies, television. If there's anything to compare it to back in the old days, we could do some compare and contrast. Any toy news. We're both modern day collectors, probably more so me than you. I think I have more of this sickness than you do, which I'm envious of.
My sickness is I had it. So it's kind of like it is subsiding to a very the defined collector where I'm finishing up, but I was that way. But neither of us really go get stuff from the back, do you? You don't go collect toys that are old and vintage, right?
I have been lately. I think we'll talk about it a little later, but I think I'm envious of you because you get to go ahead and finish off your checklist and have that kind of willpower. Once I finish a collection, I'm like, oh, this is something I didn't know I need. And then I go buy it.
Anthony, I love a beer too. It's funny. You keep saying on your channel, I got a bunch of boxes here. Unload. I don't do that. First of all, I can't wait. So I will simply open it. And I'm like, I'm not doing reviews anymore. I'm not opening these. I need them on my shelf.
Well, my problem is I was doing a bunch of action figure reviews, which I don't really like doing. So you're not going to really see those on the channel very much anymore, which means I can open up those figures a lot quicker and get them up on my display. But gave you a quick intro. Let me just kind of go into what I do here. So if you have been following from the beginning, I do make a bunch of dioramas. I got my channel 6 back there, my Nickelodeon there. It is very time consuming. I was trying to do one project a month, and that was taking a lot out of me. So I still want to make dioramas, but I just want to talk toys. And I see a lot of people talking modern stuff. I want to mix it up. I want to talk modern, but I want to go back and talk about the things that we love. So you'll still see dioramas every now and then, but I think having these weekly conversations, bringing guests on is going to be awesome. I think that's going to be a big part of it. So first off, the name Thomas Goes Nostalgic. This is a play on if anyone was into old punk rock, and by old punk rock, I mean like early 2000s punk rock. So whatever punk rock was at that time. There used to be some albums that were called Punk Goes. And this is how I chose my YouTube name. And I think this is how we're going to choose our live stream name, Nostalgic Goes Live. But these Punk Goes albums, Victor, you might like these. I was going to say new punk bands, but these all came out in the early 2000s to 2010s.
That's when I liked punk, actually. That's truly the era I got into that.
Yeah. But these albums are nothing but covers. So you would go buy one of these albums, and it would be current punk bands at the time that were doing these
standards.
Yeah, they have Punk Goes Metal. So when it came time to choose my channel, I wanted Thomas Goes Nostalgia because it made me think of these albums. So if anyone's wondering about the name, that's why. But we do have a theme today, and it's really a getting to know you theme. And the whole premise of this theme is the toys that made us, because we're adults now, right? Midlife. It's what drives us now as, adults to collect. And I think a lot of that has to be reflected on what we collected back in the day, right? I definitely had some large gaps in collecting, So I'll get to it. I don't want to spoil it, but when we get to one particular one, I know the moment that I stopped collecting. I know the time gap, and then I know exactly when I picked it back up. So really, I want to get into the story of what got us here and all of that based on the toys that we played with. So, Victor, are you ready to start getting into our list?
Absolutely, 100%. I'm ready. I know my toys that made me.
All right. And if you love the show, The Toys That Made Us, I love that
We're
show.
inspired by right here.
Inspired by. Hopefully, there's more episodes coming out. But these are the top 10 and some honorable mention toys that made me and that made Victor. So we're going to get into it. Victor, since you're the guest, we're going to let you go first.
Wonderful.
So going over to your first one.
So this is very young, of course. So chime in if you know Fisher Price's Little People and the farm. And one of my favorites was this yacht. I'm not sure if that said a lot about me growing up, but I like the finer things, right? Now, there was this giant castle. It had a trap door. It had moving stairs. It had a dragon. So a lot of that playset, it was a big playset. It really told me what I was going to love in playsets later. Like when I think of like Castle Grayskull, like behind me, things that did more, things that had features, that was the deal. That was the deal. This yacht actually had a diving board. Now, I think I used it more like walk the plank, but when I was a little kid, this could float in your bathtub, of course, but a yacht was kind of cool. And even as a kid, I thought, wouldn't it be fun to have a houseboat? So Fisher Price's Little People were some of the earliest toys I remember. Tons. I felt like there were thousands of these little round people, especially that little dog.
And I think this is crossover because these carried well into when I was.
They have lasted forever. I think they were made in the 60s, started.
And they're still around, but I would argue they're a lot cooler now. Like
why? Why would you argue that?
They're more colorful. They actually have arms. Now they're doing like franchised characters. Like I have 3 sets of the Ninja Turtle ones.
Thomas, we didn't need arms. We had imagination. Now I'm going to start it already. Look, these were made of wood. They weren't even plastic. These were wood. So we probably did suck on them and probably hurt ourselves.
Now this farm was in every school.
Yeah, true. Yeah, this would be like in the preschool, the kindergarten or play area. Absolutely. These things have lasted and there's been little change. There's a farm. There's always been one. I don't know about the yacht, probably not, but they have lasted a long time.
Yeah,
so,
I wish I put pictures of the castle up because there was a castle. I know exactly what castle you're talking about, but they redid it in the early 90s and it was amazing.
Well, it had a trap door, so I was set.
Yeah, they started doing the characters a little differently. They started looking more like Hagar the Horrible, but they were cool. They're cool.
Yeah, Impossible Pie, he had this as well. I think this is something that's universal, but I have fond memories of it, not just that I played with it and threw it away. Like I remember, and I think that's when people think about adult collectors, like, why do you care anymore? Well, because they somehow connected with me then. So I think about them now. Now, do I collect these today? No. Yeah, the castle with the dungeon under the stairs. That's right. That's the one.
It's awesome. We'll have to do like a whole Fisher Price episode once.
Maybe.
All right. This is your number 10 going into mine.
Okay, yeah.
Choosing Ghostbusters.
Wow. That's amazing. So this is your number 10. So are you starting chronologically or just saying ranking them in your favorites?
I rank these. So
okay. I did mine, I think, a little bit in order of years, but we'll see.
I was really picky as a child, I guess. And there was tons of Ghostbusters to choose from. I didn't like all the gimmicky ones. So I liked the original 4 designs that more mimicked what you saw on the cartoon. Right. They never made movie figures up until recently.
Right.
But we had the original 4. They were cool, but I don't know what it was. Maybe you can explain it. The 80s loved browns and muted colors, right? So if you see on the right, those are the slimed heroes. Those were like my quintessential Ghostbusters. And really? Neon, you put them in the freezer, they change colors. It was great. I still have that toilet. You rolled it on the ground and it like opened its mouth. But just from the monsters, the vehicles, the firehouse, my brother's in the chat. He used to take that blue fire pole off and beat me with it. So fond memories of that.
Fond memories.
Yeah, it got taken away. But Ghostbusters, I guess, was the beginning of like world building, right? Like epic play sets. This is just a play set that everyone thinks of. I think when they think of like top play sets of the late 80s, early 90s. And
you think this is world building more than maybe Star Wars?
Maybe. No, not. But I don't want to get
All
too
right.
ahead of myself.
Okay, that's true.
Yeah, but
Dramatic. Um,
no, he beat me with it. Like,
oh, I see. That's
like
right.
like a switch.
So, I'm talking about your colors. You brought up browns. This was toward the very end of the 80s. I think the toy line came out in 88 or 89. Is that right?
I think so.
This is during a time where, of course, I had to stop playing with toys. So I know definitely these were out. I saw them, but I was not allowed, because that's what happened to Gen Xers. You were not allowed. So, but I remember, and I did watch the cartoon on occasion, be on TV. I did like the cartoon's imagery. I did. I do look at the one in the left-hand side. That looks much like the cartoon. They are starting to be really, really bright and obnoxious to me on the right, but I still liked the fact that they made these.
Yeah, and I think what was Rick Moranis' character's name? Sully.
Lewis Tully.
Lewis Tully. So I think this was the first time I don't know if he was made before, but this is the first time that we had him. And so they made the team of 4, a team of 5.
Yeah. And they made a Janine as well. So they actually had everybody.
We had Janine, and you squeezed her legs and her eyes popped out with the
Something
glass.
like that. Yes.
Yeah. So you're going to see a common theme throughout my choices. I love world building. When you think of the onslaught of like just distribution and advertisement to kids, you had the figures on top shelf, the vehicles on the middle, and the plates on the bottom. You walked in, and if your parents were getting you a gift, they can just like go up and down the shelves and get you everything. But
I love the shelves back then. 100%. I love how first of all, they were loaded.
Yeah. My friend had a bunch of Ghostbusters. They were fun. Only ones I had were the Universal monster characters. Those were awesome too. I think we definitely had Dracula and the werewolf. I don't think we had any other ones, but
they didn't have the Universal monsters. Some of my favorite. I have them down below. My name's in the way, but I have a whole bunch of them currently. The truth is, though, back then they were just random. They didn't have a nice franchise set of action figures for those guys. You get them in bendy, get them in this way, get them in that way. They weren't really consistent, but
I remember the bendies.
Yeah,
right.
Lots of those.
This is my number 10, going on to your number 9.
All right. Lincoln Logs. So this is funny. A lot of people put Legos, and I played with Legos. I enjoyed Legos, but quite honestly, I enjoyed these. Now, of course, these came out in like 1958, but they can, back in the time, there wasn't a lot of marketing anyway. So I always feel the Gen X, not only did it bring a lot of toys and franchises in, but it marketed directly to me, and it marketed to kids then. That was the 70s and 80s. It was like, hey, let's tell the kids about it because they'll bother their freaking mom. So Lincoln Logs were just in the heyday at the time, and I could build anything. So I had a great time. Legos, I had a hard time making anything but a mess, like just clonk, 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 clonk. I could actually make a house, and I used these during I had a little cowboy phase, and I did make a lot of like cowboy-esque things and ranches, and I don't know what I was making, but I loved them, and they were easy to use. They were important to me, instrumental. I don't have them now, but they were a lot of fun, and they stayed with me.
Legos were never fun because my mom glued them all before we woke up for Christmas, but
she
what
do you mean?
Like we never put them together. She would glue them. We would get them for Christmas, but we'd wake up Christmas morning and they would be glued.
So did they come in a thing? Did they come as a thing together?
Like it came as a regular Lego, and before we woke up, she would have it put together and glued, and then that was our experience with Lego. But Lincoln Logs,
that kind of takes the experience away, by the way.
I mean, that's why I have no motor skills. But Lincoln Logs, I would put together, and they were great for action figures, but I would pretty much put it together so that I can like have a fight scene and throw a character through it where the whole thing just like explodes.
Yeah, so. It was awesome to make it break. Easy to put back together. And when you stepped on these, it didn't hurt as much.
No. Probably not as much as Lego.
No. Oh my.
My number 9 is Dick Tracy.
That's interesting.
Were you a fan of the movie?
I was a huge fan of the movie, had the soundtrack, and I looked at these in the toy store. I'll say I looked at them.
I don't know why this movie did poorly because I was young at the time, but we had mostly every figure, which is, I would say, every character except one, which is Madonna's character.
The blank.
And I think most people nowadays, they have this whole set minus the blank. Except for a few people. And I think that's probably a big flex in the toy community. If you have a blank, that is just...
Yeah. Is it the blank or no face? It's the blank, right?
Probably no face. Yes, laser pants. This is our first one that we're doing. It's more of a
Gosh, I hope you're asking because we're doing okay, laser pants.
So these, no play set. I do wish that we had some sort of play set, but I was able to use this with the Ghostbusters Firehouse. These vehicles, they were the same vehicle. One was just black for the villains, the black and white one for Dick Tracy. But
Well, that's a good use.
When you roll them on the ground, they'd make this like noise. It was really cool.
Oh, someone had the cop car. I see he did. Yeah.
Does
You
he
know,
have-
that's you know, when they recycle like that, and yet I'm looking now going, awesome, there's two different cars. I didn't put it together. I probably noticed playing with it, but still a great use of the time. It is too bad there isn't a play set. I only remember going, for God's sake, they're fugly as hell.
Yeah.
They're just hideous. Now, the villains in Dick Tracy were meant to be butt freaking ugly. But
oh, hey. Thank you, Laser Pants.
Oh my goodness, cherry popping. Oh, that's nice. I like that. Well, that's cool. That's my first experience even with that kind of stuff in a chat, Thomas. So
I'm trying to keep up with the chat, which
yeah.
I've tried a few before and I was pretty bad at it. So now I'm being very cognizant of it. So thank you, Laser Pants. That is the first super chat I've ever gotten. So I appreciate it. That's awesome. Thank you very much.
Like I said, I can't even respond. I'm sorry. I wish I could, but I'm reading every single one, hoping if you don't get to it, I'm going to say something. I broke your super. Yes, you did. Good thing. Yeah, I'm not. I was going to go so disgusting at that very moment, but I'm not going to. I was about to, but because I can.
But these figures, as a kid, they were made by Playmates, so they had the same body structure as Turtles, but there's the colors. Shoulders was my favorite. He's the green one at the bottom there. But if I wish I did have the set minus, I don't know if I'd pay for the Madonna one, but
she's expensive.
I love the sets in that movie. So if they just did I don't know what Playmates had that they could have just reproduced and make it one solid color. I would have still been stoked with it because that was the whole color scheme. I think
I only think it might be the place where all the villains hid out or the diner. Like those are the only two things I can even think of because I enjoyed the movie. I love the set and the look. Totally.
But Warren Beatty only used like 6 or 7 primary colors, or he only used a certain amount of primary colors in the whole filming of it, which I thought was pretty cool. So I don't know, maybe you can get this whole set minus the rare one for like at least $200.
And just a hint, underneath the blank or the no face's face, it's Madonna, but I'd rather put the face back on, like the blank, because it's not good.
No, and they ruined it. I guess they released it out before the movie and they didn't want it to get spoiled. Now toys spoil everything, so
yeah, they do 100%.
Like Legos spoil most movies nowadays, I feel like.
I remember Star Wars coming out, like Return of the Jedi, and they blacked out the Ewoks on the back card art. Their names were there. So that was them trying to surprise. So yeah, they didn't want to spoil them, so they were blacked out on the card art on the back of the first release figures.
So this is your number 7.
Is it 7? Okay, so Playmobil. It's a German toy originated. When I was a kid, these were everywhere. Now you can find them, but like we said, the toy shelves blew my mind. You walked into places and they were loaded. G.I. Joe was like an entire row, an entire aisle squared off because those boxes were freaking huge. And Playmobil was a big part of it. And that was just another choice. There's He-Man, there's G.I. Joe. Oh, look, there's Playmobil. And I would get these for Christmas or birthdays, and they'd be little sets like this. And I remember these horses so well. I don't know why I loved them so much. But again, I'm probably still younger at this time, but this is what I'd use with my Lincoln Logs. I was fascinated with a stupid show when the Disney Channel first came out in 1981 called 5 Mile Creek. It was an Australian stagecoach show, and I watched it. I don't know. It was my cowboy face.
These always remind me of like just fancy toys. Like I just assumed that.
Wait, you thought this was fancy?
Because Playmobil, it's all from Germany, right?
Yeah.
These were like toys that like rich kids played with.
These were the cheapest shit.
Were they?
Yes. These were cheap, right, people? These were not expensive. This is what you got when you couldn't buy a Transformer.
Well, maybe that assumption, because we both have worked for the mouse.
Yes.
I think if you go to Epcot at Germany, maybe it's just the Disney price, but these always were super expensive in the Germany pavilion. So, or you know what? These would always be at FAO Schwartz, and they were always marked up like crazy. Yeah, I think these were for rich kids. I don't know.
That is so strange. Not in the 70s and 80s. What is this about? The bane of your existence. The gigantic boxes would never fit the way the shelf planogram said they would. Well, that's a terrible planning then, wasn't it? Or they just Germans didn't know how to maybe they didn't understand the box dimension.
Jeez. But yeah, these are cool. I mean, we never had these, but I was like looking at them. They had the cool dragons, the knights. I guess they had everything.
Okay, what I loved, real quick, the men and women figure. The man was like just like this guy. If he was straight standing, he'd just have this straight kind of physique. The woman was always in a maternity dress. That's what they looked like. So the outfit kind of flared out like she was always pregnant. That's how you knew it was a female. Just a fun fact.
All right, Playmobil number 7. I really don't remember what I put on my list, but okay.
Oh my gosh,
So,
the repurposed action figures.
The whole line, other than some head sculpt, I don't think anything was original.
Yeah, I think the head sculpts.
But obviously, Kenner pulled from Star Wars. They pulled from DC. Their Superpowers and Super Friends line. Half of these characters, or RoboCop. I think the Sheriff of Nottingham was a RoboCop figure. I think at the time we had a bunch of figures that were more modern. These were our first like fantasy figures, like sword, not sorcery, but we have the Ewok village. But to us, it was always the treehouse from Robin Hood. All those vehicles, they're from Robin Hood. They're from.
So you're saying it's the first fantasy figures you had?
Yeah, I think so, because we didn't have many like knights or anything like that.
Okay, right. Okay, I got it.
And my brother's saying we did have the entire line
of Robin Hood.
I guess we did. I don't know if there was any missing. You know what? Yes, we did, because there was a second wave that was supposed to come out, and they just never did. So
all we did with that treehouse was add some foliage. It's exactly the same thing. But the Ewok village had no leaves.
Yeah, but the cloth goods, I think, at least covered the fact at the time.
That Friar Tuck was the Gamorrean guard from Return of the Jedi. Like that's exactly who that is. Jabba the Hutt's Gamorrean guard.
Robin Hood's Green Arrow. That knight guy is Hawkman. Will Scarlet.
They
Christian
were all new heads. They had
Rob.
new paint jobs, so.
Yeah, but this line was great, and it's going to tie into my next one. But like we got this and my next pick at the same holiday or Christmas or whatever it was, so they kind of go together. So this was a great line, and we actually had it all. So we had the world building, you had the figures, you had the play set, and you had the vehicles. So I mean, for me, this was like the total package. No,
you're right, it is, and I'm glad you used. It's not obscure, but I'm glad you used something that was off the famous fan franchises. This is uniquely out of that.
And the movie is not well received. It did have a banger of a ballad. Bryan Adams.
Oh, well then, why didn't it win an Oscar?
I don't know. It should have won at least a Grammy.
It got Bryan Adams. Come on.
So that's it for that pick. Going on to your next one.
So this is unique for me, and it totally obscure to a lot of U.S. kids. In the late 70s, very little anime came over with a bang. Like it was there, and it just was something that wasn't talked about. People weren't saying anime, and there was not a whole bunch of it. Speed Racer was around on occasion. I think there was the other kid, not Rocket Boy. I'm gonna be so. Why don't I get this? Little kid, he's like naked, wearing little shorts. He was a rocket. Oh my god, I can't remember his name. Anyway,
Big Boy.
What?
Big Boy?
No, it was. He looked a little like Big Boy, but it was Astro Boy. That was what it is, I think. So very little anime. These just show up at our house. We get like 3 of them. So me and 2 of my brothers, we get 3 of these. And they're part of the Shogun Warrior line out of Japan. And mine was this. This was Mazinga. And the great thing about it, see his left hand, you could arm it with great missiles. And this is before they neutered all those buttons. I mean, you could pull the hand off of him and you could run around shooting people with these great plastic arrows. And and he wheeled around. He's 3 feet tall, by the way. This is 3 feet tall. So you can see a very small picture on the box with the arm. So he's pretty big. And he wheeled around on roller skates. And all he did was move his arms and he could shoot people, but he was pretty cool. And we had 2 other ones that were very different. And it also had Godzilla in the line. Godzilla was part of the main line. We didn't have Godzilla. The Space Boy Laser Pants, is that what it is? Is it Space Boy? For some reason, I
thought it was Astro Boy.
Astro Boy. I think it's Astro. He did look like Big Boy because he had that freaking pompadour. And yeah, those were those early anime that we all kind of ignored. Because for me, Western animation was the hot shit because it was Scooby-Doo. I didn't really care about Speed Racer. So, but this is just one of the things that I remember fondly. I thought was cool. And he can go in any toy line as a horrible alien, destructor.
So you had 3 of these 3-foot figures.
Yeah, because I have a huge family, my older brother's right above me. Oh, thanks, Laser Pants. He was just guessing. I get it. But yeah, we had all 3 together. So they become this big army to fight whoever. They could fight your Star Wars. They could fight your He-Man, whatever.
That's cool. I've seen it before, and I'm assuming it has like a huge fan base now.
For those who don't know, there was a female character in the show because there was an anime show to it. Only certain regions had it, and she shot missiles out of her boobs. Truly. In the show, they just came out and just shot out. And they weren't like the fembots we're talking giant round gourds. Just boom, boom, out of those. They didn't make a toy of her.
Have they made it since?
I'm sure there's model kits because them Japanese fanboys.
Does anyone go in, like, is this a robot or is there someone inside it? Like
I don't think they were quite mecha yet. These were sentient as themselves. So there's no body inside.
Got it.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I didn't know this was 3 feet tall. You just told me to put it up.
They were small. I had die cast metal 3 3/4 inch too of the same character. So they came out that way. These were all plastic and the small ones were metal.
It's cool. Learned something new today.
Woohoo. Right. Oh, Hook. We've talked about this line before.
Yeah. So this was also a great line. Definitely got this the same year that I got Robin Hood Prince of Thieves, but they just worked well together. Like these figures felt like they belonged in kind of the same world. It's knights and pirates, but from the world building aspect, I think there was a play set. We didn't have it, but we did have that pirate ship on the left and a vehicle it was like an air pouch. You just like punched it, and this like boxing glove like shot out. We definitely had all of the first wave. I think the second wave, a really rare character is Peter Pan, and he's in the food fight. He has like all this like colorful spots all over him, and that's from the food fight. That one's super rare. Never actually seen it in person. They made one of the Lost Boys, the heavier guy that just like rolled around everywhere. I forgot who he was. But I didn't learn that until later. So we were happy. We had 2 Lost Boys. We had Rufio, which is a brand new character to like Peter Pan.
Rufio, really?
2 different Captain Hooks, and then 2 different Peter Pans. So it was really cool. But these went really well with the Robin Hood Prince of Thieves. So most of the time, if I was playing with these figures, that treehouse could also double as the Lost Boys treehouse. So
that's kind of cool. So these guys did fit along with that pretty well in scale.
They're mostly the same size. I don't remember who made them, but they definitely scale well. They scale almost perfectly together. But,
well, like your Robin Hood line, remember how you said Robin Hood didn't do well?
No.
Yeah.
I think this did okay.
I wouldn't say it was a runaway hit, but it was okay. I watched this film and there's some things about it I love, but overall I despised this movie. But I really liked the idea that Peter Pan grows up and there was a forgetfulness and he goes back, old Wendy and all. I thought that was cool. But other than that, I thought it was completely 90s obnoxious. So that is one of those things where I look at this and go, God, no, why? But that's me. And Robin Williams is Peter Pan.
As a kid, I love the mermaids. Just saying.
What'd you think about Tinkerbell, Julia Roberts? Because that was a weird casting.
I didn't like her.
Okay.
But I like the mermaids.
Like the mermaids are fine.
And we did have the bed sheets with the mermaids on it.
Of course you did.
So
you and your brother both had bed sheets with mermaids on them?
Well, it was the whole they used to make bed sheets for like every movie.
Everything, which I adored that. I love that. Mattel made Hook. That was Mattel.
But and honestly, we had Dick Tracy bed sheets. We had Peter Pan. The bed sheets
slept with your best friends.
Well, the bed sheets told the story of the movie, which I always thought was cool.
That's cool. I remember the Star Wars ones very famously, but I don't remember. I remember the Masters of the Universe bed sheets. I never had any though. Those bed sheets were. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing with those mermaids. They told a story. What story are they telling now?
I mean, if I had them today, probably. I don't know. Anyway, all
Oh,
right.
all right. So I get my first show and tell, people. So this is a Cylon Centurion who is not pictured. Isn't that weird, Thomas? I sent you this. He's not even in it. So Battlestar Galactica, the television show, no, not the new one, where they all looked ridiculous and the Cylons were humans, which I know they were sexy humans, but come on, these were the Cylons. And this is actually one of my original action figures from Battlestar Galactica of the Cylon. Pretty cool. He doesn't have leg articulation, which sucked, but he had arm. He came with a great gun. So there was also this guy who remembers Battlestar Galactica. This is Daggett, or the Daggett, named Muffet. It was a little confusing. Basically, it was a chimpanzee in a dog costume, a robotic dog. So I loved Battlestar Galactica. What a great show growing up. You know, having some serious sci-fi like that in Buck Rogers was pretty awesome. So we did get every one of them in the line, except I think that pig-headed character. But we had Adama, we had Starbuck, we had the Ovion, we even had Lucifer. I don't know why Lucifer. He's the purple one with the pointy head. He was one of my favorites. And there was even the Imperious leader who's not in the picture. So I really love this toy line. And being 3 3/4, it went along with Star Wars really well. More aliens, more allies, great figures. I am lucky to have a Daggett with its tail because they break off super easy. So I love these guys. They don't have very detailed faces, and their feet are smaller than a Chinese woman who's been forced to put them in shoes. But other than that, they're great.
Now, I'm going to get raked over the coals. Did this come out before Star Wars or after?
No, so Battlestar Galactica came out I think Battlestar Galactica, the TV show, came out in 78 or 79. I think 78 or 79. So it was Star Wars who said, oh my God, Universal was like, hurry, put something sci-fi on. And they did release the first episodes as a movie, limited release, but it ended up just going on TV. It was a regular series, only for 2 seasons. Then they made a Battlestar Galactica 1980. They called it Galactica 80, and it was a little on Earth to save money. So these came out after, which was good. I don't remember who made them. Hold on, it might be on his ass. I seriously cannot see that. But yeah, whoever made them knew they would go along really well with Star Wars. So
we should do an episode of like defunct, since we both know a lot about theme parks, but we should probably do like defunct attractions, because there's definitely some Battlestar Galactica that was at Disney, maybe Universal, maybe a little bit.
Battlestar was Universal.
Okay, it was on their backlot tour, wasn't it?
It was. I love that. I have a show on my channel, folks, about that. But yeah, the backlot tour. I loved going through Battlestar Galactica and the Cylon shooting me. It was great.
Was that here in Universal, or was
no? It was only in Universal Hollywood, because of course their tram goes through these attractions.
Okay. Yeah, I think they still have it. Universal here in Orlando does not have a backlot tour, but they have some pretty other.
No, they still have it in Hollywood. It's awesome. Yeah, somebody said they had the green guy. That's the Ovion. Yeah, he ate people. It was the first movie portion was pretty graphic. The original movie that came out for it and then became a TV show. But
I remember that costume. That costume's pretty iconic, I guess.
So these were great. This was my number 6, I guess, huh?
All right. So next up, I know you love neon stuff, but I love my era of G.I. Joe. So I think my brother was born 2 years before me, 85. So we had, the kind of, not the first years of a real American hero, but like kind of I'd say the tail end before it starts getting wacky. So we have a lot of those older characters. The command center, we had it twice. Like we had it, my mom donated it, and then my cousin gave away, or his parents gave away a bunch of his crap, and then we got the command center again, and then it got donated again. So we had it in our hands twice. But when it comes to the Ninja Force, I love that there's a growing fan base for it now, but I think a lot of original G.I. Joe fans hate it. But in the 90s, everything was just bright and neon, right? So love that. This was also the time where they were doing some licenses for Street Fighter. Mortal Kombat, I don't think ever had G.I. Joe branding on it, but it did have basically all the same. It had a big character selection, but it had all the same articulation. It was for more or less, it was G.I. Joe. I do have one show and tell. So I saw Impossible Pie has Zartan.
Yeah. That's right. You pulled that up earlier. I saw you showed it to me.
Let me see.
Great. I don't know if is he coming back? You're coming back, right?
This is my first time.
Thomas is
But
about to show us. Oh, there it is.
I do have here. Let me see. Can I make
There it
myself
is.
big? There we
Yep.
go. Lighting sucks. I have not bought a G.I. Joe classified Zartan yet because I'm hoping this one does come out. But the card art on this, I always thought was super cool. And then the look. I mean, you don't get more 90s than that. Neon green pants, purple shin guards, orange mohawk. I mean, I don't care. Like, I love the Ninja Force figures. I won't rebuy these at all. I still have my Night Creeper. He's in one of my like remote control tanks, but no, I love that. But then the Street Fighter ones, I think because of this is how I display my G.I. Joes. I think most people do like a Capcom versus Marvel, but my Street Fighter from Jada Toys they're all displayed with my G.I. Joe. I mix them up, like the ninjas with the ninjas. Guile is with all of the like fatigue G.I. Joes. So for me, I think it would just be nice if there was some sort of Mortal Kombat line that scaled. McFarlane now is doing Mortal Kombat. They're 7 inches. I'm not going to buy them, but to get a 6-inch Mortal Kombat line that I can put with my G.I. Joes and my Street Fighter would be exactly how I played with these figures as a kid. And I think Real American Hero until the line ended. This was world building. This was the best of world building for me.
I'll agree with you on that completely. This blew up a world. Yeah.
Yeah. So had them pretty high on the list. Your next one.
Stay on this one though. Stay back. Go back.
I'll go back.
Go back to G.I. Joe for a minute. So I'd like to talk about this because we actually, our other show we did a long time ago that we shared was about this G.I. Joe thing. So G.I. Joe came out in 82 as an action figure line. And Thomas likes to refer to it as the like very military, the very realistically military. I'm not a military guy, but there was something cool about those very unique figures and their code names. And I really liked the original. We'll get to them in a minute. But when I look at these, and there was a point at like 1987 or 88 where everybody got super neon. And the funny thing is, and I don't know what this is, in the 80s, people think of neon. And yes, there was neon, but then it seemed like in the late 80s, early 90s, man, it just became kind of, it absorbed the whole world was neon. So I'm looking at Zartan right there, the one you showed, and I'm looking at, this is my classified Zartan, right? And he's just so much cooler than yours. And so I'm looking at the green pants and the leather. It totally looks like the late 80s in a movie where everyone be ninja fighting with their neon mohawks. But I gotta say, this cool hooded guy who was like photosensitive to light, just, yeah, he was dark. He was browns and blacks with armor. He just looks like a stud. The other guy, I don't know, looks like, it's just not my cup of tea. And it did change. Like there was a point where I said, yeah, that's where G.I. Joe changed. 87, and I was done. Even though it was also the time period that I wasn't getting toys anymore. It was a good point for me to stop anyway, because G.I. Joe turned to this. But enough on that. We'll talk more about that later.
That's what I said. There was just, the 80s were just full of brown and black and gray. So when we got
bright,
got the pop of color, you know, there is a limit to the G.I. Joe weird that I don't like. But like, I love the, you know, in that last live stream we did, like the was it the drug enforcement? They came out with a drug enforcement line.
They got it. It was a just say no toy.
Yeah.
Got a little far. Okay, so this is my next one. It's back to Fisher Price. I know everybody in this chat knows who the adventure people are. And like my little people, when you kind of graduate out of little people at 5 and 6, you graduate into this immediately. These were incredible. They, again, are 3 3/4 inch, and they are action figures that could go in other lines. But they are basically, besides the two translucent androids, they're all like men and women running the world, working at the hospital, the firefighter, running out, going camping. Like, these sets were amazing, from helicopters to boats. They were research vessels. This basically is a thumbnail from my show all about the Fisher Price's Excellent Adventure People. You should check it out later. But these toys really did something to me. They kind of helped my imagination. You could play real world. You could have this great time. They weren't superheroes. They weren't supernatural. They weren't spacey, except for these two translucent androids, which I always thought were awesome. But for the most part, these guys rode motorcycles. They swam with kayaks. They were cowboys. They were truckers, and they played. And they got so much use in my yard and in my bathtub. Awesome toys, and you kept them throughout. They could add to all of your Star Wars too. Obviously, a great scale.
It's just like nice slice of life toys.
Yeah. Anyone else? Fisher Price? Come on. Anyone there?
So
Yeah.
I don't think we ever had these, but
None of them?
recently, no. But recently, I don't know if you know the line Mythic Legions, because I know you don't collect a lot of modern day stuff. But
Yeah.
the Four Horsemen, they have a toy company called Mythic Legions. They came out with a character called Fisher, F. Isher Rice or something like that. It was an homage to like one of the old space characters. I was gonna grab him for show and tell, but he's way off on the
Can't
shelf.
grab him.
I got him because I just like the history of it, right? So, and that's the problem with you and me. Like, I will buy things on a whim because of that. I know you can keep your.
Why would you buy it on a whim? What's whim for you? What are you just like? Oh, that I want to get it.
Like, oh, that is a cool part of like toy pop culture. I want it.
Okay. Nope, I am not that way. You're right. I am totally like, I need to have the things that made me happy as a kid. Let me get the modern version of them.
Yeah, like I know, like if my mom didn't have some of the toys that were recalled, I'd go ahead and buy them. But she has the Tarzan that's like whacking off. You know, just canceled toys or like toys that are like no longer that would never make today. But anyway, my next one, Marvel 90s Toy Biz. And
All right.
I know the theme for me has been world building, but I never had many play sets. I didn't have any play sets for this or vehicles because you really didn't need that stuff. I mean, these guys just fought on the street or whatever.
Yeah.
They did make play sets, but none that we had. But from X-Men, Spider-Man, Iron Man, Fantastic Four, the Avengers. I mean, this line went deep, and I think that's why I like Marvel Legends so much because they've almost made every character that they've made in 6-inch form. You know, there's definitely a few on the list that I would die for, but you could create the Marvel universe. There was very few characters that they didn't do back then, and the line changed over the years. But I think Toy Biz had DC at one point, and then when they lost it, they took Marvel, and this line exploded. So I remember going over to a friend's house, and they had more different characters that I didn't have. So you know, these were always in someone's toy box. So I used to love having play dates. But I think just having the whole Marvel universe, this is before the movies. You had the Stanley, either Super Hour or whatever it was called. You know, this was a great time for Marvel.
You know, do you remember Superpowers line? Are they related here? No, that was DC. So the Superpower line characters there. I know it's not X-Men or Marvel, but I really did love the look. They were bright colored. They were well designed. I just don't know or remember these as much as I enjoy Marvel today for the most part. I don't really know most of these things. They look great. I'm going to take your total word for it. I didn't look at them on shelves. I know they were there, but they did an amazing job getting them all or getting so many.
And Toy Biz had the line for a long time until Hasbro took over Marvel Legends. But I mean, this line, and I don't know if Impossible Pie is talking about this line. This line is super cheap now. Like you can pretty much go back and buy all of these. And you know, if I wanted to sell my modern day collection, go back and collect these. Like I wouldn't even break the bank on these. So these would be super cheap. But yeah, this is a great toy line. It's still a great toy line. I have most of the ones I had as a kid. Still,
you do.
So every now and then I pull them out, look at them. You know.
Now you still collect Marvel action figures. They're the what now? The Marvel. What are they called?
Marvel Legends. But
Marvel Legends. Yeah, you still have a huge Marvel collection.
Yeah, I mean, I'm winding down. Like I thought originally, I had the reverse idea. I said, I wanted to collect the movie figures because for me, it was more movie memorabilia, right? And for me, it was like the first time ever. We've never seen a movie franchise go as long as the MCU has gone, right? Lately, there's not a lot that I would say has like wowed me. Yeah. So I think I kind of did it wrong. I should have just collected comics because there's an end to collecting comics, and I mostly only collect X-Men and Spider-Man. But when you're committed to collecting the movie stuff, and then you don't really like the movies or the TV shows, then it kind of takes the fun out of it. So now I'm very picky and choosy when it comes to Marvel Legends, but and then I have most of my X-Men that I need. There's a few villains I want, and that's it.
Get them while they're cheap,
and then I'll have the willpower not to buy anymore. All right,
awesome. So my GI Joe. I
How
gave
about-
a heads up, obviously, but GI Joe is amazing, and I it came out right around the same time as Masters of the Universe. It's very difficult to separate, and they're very completely different. But I had this really great admiration and love for both, and I'm not sure why. Snow Job was my very first character. Now, I meant there was a group that came out before that, of course, but I had to collect kind of later. This is the first one I got, and my brother had Stalker, and my other brother had Rock and Roll. I loved them all. They actually became mine as they were growing up. So you look down at the bottom right of this picture, and I think those are the original 82 line. There's the whole line. There are some duplicates in body. They were recycling bodies there, but with different head molds, of course. Scarlet being very individual, but I think he came out the following, and they're just overall they had that great articulation that Star Wars didn't. So we're like, oh my God, they can bend at the elbow and bend at the knee. Very few things could do that. TV shows did. They had Buck Rogers toys, which came out before this, actually had that same probably the same. What's it called, guys? I know the name. The rubber band. No. What? O-ring. So yeah, the O-ring, the thing that destroyed the space shuttle. They are those action figures, and they were cool. They really articulated, especially when they had the waist articulation too. So since I do collect classified today, here's my Snow Job, and what an impressive redo. I think you've got this guy too, right? Yeah. So Snow Job and classified. As you can see, I love modern day versions of my favorite franchises, and he's phenomenal. So really taking back what I loved as a kid and saying, well, I want him now, and I want him in a certain look that I feel is right. So yeah, that's my Snow Job. That is what GI Joe is about to me. And like I said, it kind of went on. I really do like, there's a crossover between 86 and 87. There's a couple of characters in 87 that I'm like, hey, they were pretty cool. But it was kind of at the end of my playing with toys. And then obviously they kind of changed looks and got into Ninja.
All about the Ninja.
All about the Ninja.
I got the Firefighter, who is the same exact figure as Snow Job.
You mean his body mold?
They used all the same parts.
Actually, I saw your video, and you do. I remember when you broke him down, you were like, oh, the jacket over shirt. I was like, oh yeah, that really is, just bold in some different colors. Oh, but he's got a great new face.
Yeah. But no, we had a lot of these. I don't think we had a lot of the original lineup, but we did have a lot. I would say from 85 until the line died, we had. So
look at this trivia here. Look at the line of these originals here. If I'm correct, Scarlet is in this original, famous character, right? But Duke is not even in this. So you've got characters that, Rock and Roll might be the most familiar, but these other guys like Grunt and they're just some characters that didn't really last. The ones that came after started to really get personalities, and which I love because they've got some great names. I do love that they all come with their gosh, I'm trying to remember his name. Is it he has a cool name. Some of these names are pretty damn cool. Like the thought that goes into these file cards.
I think classified.
Harlan is his name. His name is Harlan.
Which I don't think they made in classified yet.
Is who?
The one you just mentioned.
Duke?
No, Harlan.
No, that's the real name of Snow Job. So I'm just saying, what I love is that they get so much detail. His name is Harlan. Where's he from? No, there's a couple left in the original line that they haven't made, but I think they're getting them all out. They're doing better than Masters of the Universe. I'll tell you that.
How much more Masters is there to make?
There of the original vintage line, there's 5, and they just are skipping them. They're just going to other stuff.
They should just do an exclusive in a 5-pack because now they're focused on the Filmation stuff.
Based on the cartoon one. I'm like, come on, just freaking finish. You can concentrate on all that crap.
All right,
anyway,
let's get away.
I digress.
Let's get away from this muted green, brown.
Oh, military attire. Oh, there's some color.
All right, so let me read Captain McKay's. Wish I still had my X-Men. These and TMNT vanished. Yep. These were definitely the X-Men and TMNT. The TMNT ones, my mom, I came home one day and my mom had all the TMNT figures in the middle of the floor. And I remember she said, pick which ones are going to the poor.
Oh my God. Wait, how old were you?
Probably
she thought it was too old.
Not too old to have toys, but I just remember damn, you're going to make me pick? And we lost some good men that day. We did. Laser Pants wants to know which 5.
I'm writing them down to him. So, Too Bad, Blast Attack, Dragstore, Twistoid, and the other top. I don't care if they make Twistoid in the other top. Those are dumb. So, those would be the original 5. There are the movie figures they made in the original Masters of the Universe as well, Blade and Sarad and Gwildor. But out of the 5, they're those guys I just put in the chat. They need to make those. Those are the last 5 left.
But you see,
Anyway.
my illness would say that one that you said you don't need. I would like, no, I need it. I need it.
It is sad because I'm like, I want all the vintage line, but the 2 last figures they made, which were basically tops, like, I'm like, I don't want those. I don't want them at all. They're stupid.
Like, gimmick.
But yeah.
So, all right. So for this one,
Batman.
I don't know. We were eating pretty good in the 90s with Batman. So there was the straight up and down, figures, which were cool. They were still great. Batman, the Dark Knight collection, which was after Toy Biz gave the license over to Kenner. And then they started following this format, Batman Returns. Great line. There was a Robin in the toy line that was not in the movie.
Right.
But they had a great line of figures. They did a repainted Penguin, so he never looked like Danny DeVito. But they had Catwoman look great. But other than the movie stuff, because you had the 4 movies come out, the 2 Tim Burton, the 2 Joel Schumacher, then you had the animated series come out. So the animated series figures were probably the most accurate to any show, which was great. So if you were collecting the movie stuff, they had a lot of gimmicks, not really matching like what you were seeing on screen. That's where the animated line really excelled. At the same time, then you had the Legends of the Dark Knight or Legends of Batman line that came out, and that mimicked the comics. And there were some gimmicks there, but like at least the villains looked like they were straight from the comics from at least the 90s. And so if you wanted movie figures, you wanted animated show figures, if you wanted comic figures, there was something for every Batman collector at that time.
This whole toy line, this toy line by Kenner handled all of them.
They had all these different sublines when it came to Batman,
and they had one for each of the movies.
And then they would do a huge promotion for each movie.
Wow. Am I looking in the bottom right at the yellow? Is that the animated series in yellow?
That's the animated series, which we didn't
remember Man Bat from the show, and the Catwoman is from the show. There wasn't a Catwoman from the movie versions, or was there?
There was, and I think the animated figure was virtually the same. Cool. But they did a great job. I still have my original Michelle Pfeiffer figure.
Wow. Now that Bruce Wayne in the middle, now that's some debonair. That's a cool. From what I see, he looks awesome, and I'm guessing he can put the cowl on too, right?
Yes, but I put the picture of the playset there. One, they notoriously repainted this playset 6 or 7 times.
But it was the same playset. It was always Wayne Manor,
but they changed They changed the theme, so they definitely used it for Batman Returns, Batman Forever, Batman and Robin, the animated series, the New Adventures of Batman and Robin, and I think they used it a few other times. But the cool thing about that Bruce Wayne figure is that you can put him in. There was a door, and then you would twist it around, and then on the other side you can have a fully dressed Batman.
Right. Okay.
I mean, we had the Batmobile, I had the Bat Cycle, we had the Joker cycle that had like a sidecar. This was just a great time for Batman. And
what year was this about when the bulk of this was out?
The Dark Knight collection came out between Batman 89 and Batman Returns.
Okay. Because
Toy Biz did a line for the first Batman movie. It only had 3 figures, a couple of vehicles, but they did Batman, Joker, and Bob the Goon.
Oh, I remember that. I do know that line very well.
Yeah, and
what I'm loving is that I remember Batman the Animated Series. I had been kind of really away from watching cartoons, and there were a few years I just wasn't paying attention. The animated series was awesome. I loved it. And so that's why I looked down. I'm like, I kind of like these figures, but it must be because I really liked that series. And I started watching cartoons again, modern cartoons.
But the Legend of the Dark Knight or the Legend of Batman, those were the first figures where he wasn't just this straight up and down skinny Michael Keaton type figure. That's when they started making him in like stylized poses, and he was like Jack, right? So that was something new that we haven't seen before, but figures were getting bigger. That like the whole like GI Joe Extreme were in these like
Yeah.
big roided out, and that's when they started doing Batman like that too. So there was some cool comic stuff in there. So Batman, I think, definitely shaped the way I collect now. So really cool stuff. Let me move over to your next one, which is
Yes. All right. Yeah, Transformers hit me like a ton of bricks. This kid in school came to school one day and he showed me a boxed Megatron. It was a gun, of course. You know, Megatron was a Waffle P-38, which I always thought would be nice to have a real one. And he brought it. It was in Japanese writing and everything. And I'm like, what the hell is that? And he told me what it was. And I was like, I got to have these. So they were just coming over. They would debut fall of 1984. And my mother took me to Kmart and she bought me my very first Transformer, which I have right here. So this is Hoist. He's a green pickup truck. He is from 1984. He's one of the first wave of Transformer action figures, and I love him. He is still die-cast metal and rubber tires, and he's really loose. But yeah, Hoist was the one I picked. Now, she was like, here, we're at Kmart, right? And she's like, you know, you can buy a toy. So I was like, okay, here they are. There's a billion Transformers out. And I didn't want the small ones like Bumblebee. And we couldn't afford, she wasn't going to buy me Optimus Prime. So I was kind of between Grimlock and Hoist. And I mean, yeah, people were like, why didn't you get the dinosaur? But I don't know what it was about a pickup truck, but I loved it. So I have Hoist still. And if you see the top two shelves here are all Transformers, there's 364 of them in there. That includes the Gestalt. I don't even know how to say that word. The combiners up there. So there's a lot of them in there. And these are all modern versions. So it took years for them to create the version I wanted. I do love to collect the G1 only, the Generation 1 Transformers that were all shown starting in 1984. So I collect those guys, but I collect them now. The version that came out in Legacy. So anything from like 2015 on, they started to make that really looked like the cartoon and the figure themselves, but with lots of articulation. So love that line. Transformers is a huge legacy toy line to me. You know, Bumblebee the movie was great. I don't think the Michael Bay movies were fantastic. I did watch about 3 of them. First one was pretty cool, but overall, huge Transformer fan still today. Generation 1 only, and but I get anyone that's a Generation 1, I get their modern version and I put it up there. But I swear I only have a couple of Headmasters left to go.
So I have one Transformer.
You do? What is it?
It's the Ninja Turtle van.
Okay. All right.
And you know, before when I said my mom glued all my Legos, so I lost my motor skills.
Yeah.
It took me like 3 hours to like transform it. Like as a 30-something-year-old man.
Did your mom glue that together?
No, I just could not figure it out.
You just don't have motor skills.
It came out like a year and a half ago, and I remember sitting there getting so frustrated with it, and I was like, "This sucks." So,
you got me started though, because that whole collaboration series. I have the Ghostbusters Transformer, so I do have Ecto 1's Transformer as well. So, Ecto 1, I keep these guys in their robot figure, but I have the DeLorean. I have the Jurassic Park Jeep, and I have Knight Rider. So I have done some collaborations because I love Transformers so much. But I think the Ecto 1 is the coolest looking one. Comes with a nice Slimer on top. I'm not going to transform him, or I'll show how silly I am. So yeah, I love having those collaborations. I even have one of Dracula because he was a licensed Universal monster. Dracula right here. I do have these guys. So this is actually a licensed Universal monster Dracula Transformer. So had to have him because he's Universal Monster. Any fan out there of those guys? You know what I mean.
is that newer or older?
He's newer. He came out in 2021. Yeah. He turns into a robot bat, but he does, yeah, robot bat or him. Yeah, or the robot Dracula. So it's pretty cool.
It's cool. And that's, you know, that's where I think that balance is. My Transformer knowledge and my Master of the Universe knowledge is next to nothing. So hearing you talk about it, I think that's where, you know, the nice yin and yang comes in.
Well, true, because you're Batman, because I was loving the show at the time, the figures started to look kind of cool to me.
Yeah, no, they were awesome. And that was the first time, like, there were so many characters that had all this extra armor on it. It just didn't look like the show. So I just want, and that's what modern collecting is doing now. They're finally giving us characters that look like what we saw.
What we saw, what we remembered, what we thought we saw.
Yeah. All right. My next
What's
one.
yours? We're coming down to the end of the list, guys. I hope you're getting some. I hope you're looking and finding like, oh, I had those too, or I love those guys.
This one I put a bunch in one, but mini play sets. And then maybe this is my love for dioramas now. Like they couldn't make a play set for everything, but when they started making these play sets, you could create all these different worlds, and they were all the same scale. I think the success of Polly Pocket dawned Mighty Max, and then you already had Micro Machines kind of off to the side making miniature things, but then Micro Machines started doing more like action stuff versus just like car washes and boring crap. So there's lots of military. I did like the military stuff from Micro Machines because then I can use my miniature Batman. I can use my miniature Turtles. I can use anything, Marvel characters with them. So in this picture, there's Mighty Max, which I think started the mini craze. There's Micro Machines, which that tank opened up to this giant playset. Loved it. But Batman had miniature stuff. X-Men had the pocket comics. It literally was a square. Yeah, it was a square that you can literally put in your pocket. And then Turtles, the Mini Mutants blew up. These are some of the most expensive figures or collections to go back and collect from like retro collections because everything was so small. Most people do not have a complete version of any of these. And if they do, they're going to charge an arm and a leg.
I was going to say that why they're expensive because you can't get them complete. It's so hard. People lost stuff.
No. And somehow I have every miniature figure of Turtles. I have every miniature figure of the X-Men. And I have most of the Mighty Max because everything fit inside the play set. So it was hard to lose stuff there. And we were good about keeping that. But some of the Turtles had accessories that actually held in their hands. Those are long gone. But yeah, I think when we were never poor. We never wanted for anything. But I think sometimes when, maybe your parents couldn't afford that $100 playset or $75 playset, you can get these and have almost the same amount of play value and then mix them all together. So these were just great. World building overall was amazing. They went with your Micro Machines. And then when you started getting like licensed characters, then, then your cityscape became Gotham, right?
Sure.
Or it became New York for the Turtles. So it's a really cool time. These things aren't made anymore. Like mini play sets, they are. No. I think there's another company doing a version of Mighty Max that's like off-brand, or it's an homage to Mighty Max. But those retail are super expensive. But this was a great time for collecting, and I love the mini play sets.
So I'll give millennials a lot of credit here because you guys embraced this where I don't think my generation really did. As towards the end of the 80s, there were new action figures coming that we weren't really akin to, like Power Rangers and Turtles. We were like, okay, whatever. But then they got small, like there were Battle Beasts, and which people love. There were the muscle figures, and they're just this small things that we were so used to this, that we didn't understand these really tiny things, and they didn't appeal to us. But like Mighty Max, you look at all these things here and you're like, oh yeah, they're pretty cool, small, but little tiny things, they didn't have the articulation we loved so much. So I think I just sort of poo-pooed these aside, going like, yeah, whatever. There's no desire for any of these miniature things at all, but you guys embraced them. They're everywhere and you loved them. So
I think it's like when your parents, like, you can only bring one toy. And
sure.
if you just slip one of these in your pocket,
bring the whole set.
Yeah, you have a whole seat and characters, and some of them came with like little vehicles. So lots of.
My parents couldn't afford the G.I. Joe aircraft carrier. It's true.
But if they made a miniature version,
maybe.
All right, moving on.
All right. And I'm sure you love this, but I know you weren't around for when it first debuted. But I was around in 1977. So we all know, if you know Star Wars at all, you know that the action figures actually appeared in 1978. They weren't ready for the movie's release, which was fine. I was still pretty young, but all of these originals, we had tons. They were so inexpensive. That's so incredible. You think back, and even then, they were pretty inexpensive to buy. but there were loads of them. Toy stores just packed them in. So once it became very common in retail, the Star Wars action figures were everywhere. You could buy them anywhere. They were cheap. Everybody had them. And I thought that was the ideal thing, is you just grabbed and grab and grab. There's a new one out all the time. Even these original Star Wars, they then added more. Of course, by the time Empire Strikes Back came out in 80, tons more, and they did a couple waves. And Return of the Jedi in 83, they did a couple more waves. So they also blew up with vehicles and play sets. I remember having a Jawa play set. We absolutely had the Death Star, as my brother Kirk's, but what a play set. Especially, this is probably one of our first early 1978, the Death Star playset with an elevator, a place to hang upside down, not sure why, a retractable bridge for them to swing across. There's obviously the trash compactor, the mega gun there, the place that Ben Kenobi can go around and turn off the tractor beam. So it was all there, and an awesome playset. And I think Star Wars really, what we had before this was scattered. We had toy lines that were just kind of not really gelling, not really put together. There was this, that little thing, no story. But here it was. This was it. And it really did lay the groundwork for so many that came after, especially in this scale. Not that they would stay 3 3/4 forever, but this would be a common scale for a couple decades.
Now, did you get the piece of cardboard for Christmas?
I did not, because so I saw Star Wars in 79 because it was re-released and I was old enough to see it. Like in 77, I was still a little young to go. So in 79, when they re-released it, because it was an official re-release before Empire, my dad took my sister and I to that. We had already gotten the characters because my older brothers had it. And so we had already known who they were from the toys, but we didn't do we didn't get the pre-sale. We promise you action figures cardboard. So we just started getting them on card back. We didn't ever get vehicles. My parents never bought vehicles. Now, I am the youngest of 11 children, so we were kind of poor. And I say that with kind of because we were able to get things, but she was very frugal. You're getting the action figures and maybe this play set. But we didn't there was no TIE fighters, no X-Wings, no Millennium Falcons. We didn't get vehicles. So I don't know how
11 children, you got to spread the wealth.
We had to spread the wealth, but luckily the bottom 4 of us, 3 boys and 1 girl, we really could share a lot. So it was good. But I love Star Wars. I know you have an affinity to it, but after Return of the Jedi, there was a gap of we all thought, there's no more Star Wars. There's nothing else. The Droids cartoon came out. The Ewoks cartoon came out. And so we just sort of forgot. We just sort of went away.
Yeah.
And then suddenly you get yours, Power of the Force and all that.
And I think that's where there was a slight disconnect. It's not that I wasn't interested at the time because from the time I was born until the trilogy was re-released back in the theaters, there was already a big gap.
There was a big gap. It was very limited what was even available with Star Wars labels on. Yeah.
And we didn't go see it in movie theaters when it got released, but I knew people had it on VHS. I didn't know what Star Wars was until a certain point. I knew what it was, but I didn't really know anything about it.
I love someone brought up the VHS set. So he's saying the exact same thing where he might be in line with your age so in 83, we get Return of the Jedi. We get a whole bunch of figures, but we get a couple waves because they put out Jabba's creatures. Everything was coming out. The Ewoks came later, and there was tons of Ewoks. And then you're like, George Lucas is like, well, now what? So he makes a Droids cartoon. There's some Droids action figures. There's an Ewok cartoon. There's some Ewoks action figures. And then it's just dry spell. So for us, we're like, that was it. It is gone. It is over. So then we go on with our lives and move on to other things. And you come along. And now they're like, oh, here's a new way to do it. So really that big gap, there's another generation and a whole new way to look at Star Wars when you came around.
Yeah. We'll probably get to that.
There you go. So continue.
So I remember when there was one Christmas that came out, and at this time, already collecting a mixture of superhero characters, but it was very none of them were the same scale, none of them matched. And I got into the Star Wars toys before I actually got into the movies, which was strange.
Okay, that's interesting.
But I remember the particular Christmas episode 1 came out. So I just remember walking down the toy aisle and seeing there's all these vehicles, there's all these creatures, there's all these characters, play sets. but then this Power of the Force line was still on the shelf. So it was the Power of the Force with all the original characters next to the episode 1 characters. So you really had your pick.
You had a lot at once.
And I said, oh, this is like this whole world I can get into. And, you know, now I don't have to jump from like line to line. So there was a moment where when I started collecting Star Wars as a kid in like 99, I didn't collect anything else until I stopped collecting completely. So I went pretty deep on the trilogy characters. I went completely almost with episode 1, 2, and 3. And I was glad when it ended because I was like, oh, there's an end in sight, and that's it. Star Wars is off in the sunset. I don't need to ever collect again.
Isn't that funny? That's exactly what we thought.
Yeah. But I have actually kept my willpower when it comes to Star Wars because I did not collect anything from the sequels. I don't collect modern day Star Wars now. I don't think the Black Series will ever get to the character selection that Power Force 2 or the prequels have. Yeah. So I'm like, I have the best versions of my Star Wars collection now. I don't need to upgrade it. Whereas
no, that's interesting.
I collect other things that I feel like we never got the best version of. That's why I want to like redo it, or I want to redo. But when it comes to Star Wars, it's like you gave me great vehicles, you gave me great play sets, you gave me great character selection. You started coming out with magnetic lightsabers and magnetic hands. You started coming out with removable limbs. Like,
you're like, I don't need that.
It was a great era of Star Wars. Like there was, I see Black Series releasing figures. It looks like they're just doing the same character over and over again. And it's just like no interest. This is something I go back and every now and then I think of a character, and if I don't have it, I will go back and buy it.
You really put that into perspective when you said, I wish I could go back, because you said it as, you gave me the best versions of these that we needed, or that, you know, I wanted. That is a lot. If anyone's a collector here watching the show or in the comments, I have very distinct franchises that I love, and I waited till the best version of them came out and I got those. So it does make it divine. Now, Star Wars was interesting. I have some very old vintage, and you know, it's funny. I'll say nothing was better than the vintage, but they could always use better articulation, a little upgrade, understandably. So I did decide, because for me, collecting is, I need to represent my favorite franchises, but I don't need them all. So I needed to represent Star Wars, and it was the vintage line that I went ahead and collected. So I love that you said, you know, this Power of the Force is what you needed. So this is vintage line, Luke, the Jedi. And so I went ahead and I have a Jabba's Palace as my representation of all Star Wars. I don't know why I picked that. I think it was just to represent that, you know, Return of the Jedi was the end. It has some really great characters in the aliens and the creatures of Jabba's Palace, but it also has all the main figures. Han is there, Leia's there, Chewbacca's there, Luke is there, R2's there. So everybody's involved. So I said, you know what? I'm going to represent with Jabba's Palace in the vintage line. So I didn't love the Power of Force because they did come kind of pre-posed. Not a thing I like. I like articulation to pose myself, but I like what you said, because everything else you see, the Transformers, the G.I. Joe, they are the best versions of the figures I wanted. So that's a really good way to put it.
Yeah, and you know, I'm happy Star Wars collectors are getting, you know, 6-inch line, but they're also getting the vintage collection. Yeah, I'll sometimes like for my episode 2 Geonosis and playset, I'll go back and buy some Jedi just to like fill out. Yeah, because you have a lot of nondescript Jedi. But the best part about this toy line, there were some toy lines that had main characters never made. Star Wars Power of the Force 2, or just Star Wars in general, which I think is why Black Series kind of sucks, is that they would make characters of, if you blink and you miss them. And that is just something you'll never see again with Star Wars. And that's why there's no point in collecting, for me.
I get it. Well, we should go wrap this list up.
So these are your honorable mentions. And
okay. Wait, you didn't even bring up He-Man then.
Well, we're not up number 1 yet.
Oh, so honorable mentions are first. Y'all know mine. So this is funny. I do not know why, but this doesn't even have really good action figures. But E.T. meant the world to me. E.T. was huge. I was the same age as Elliot. I went to the movie a bit. I don't know what he represented, and so that movie tore me to pieces. I've always loved it. No, I never had the alien probing finger, which you see on the right, because that is the creepiest thing ever. But I do remember this little alien ET spaceship that when you lift it up and you bring down the runway and you shoot it, out goes ET, and better yet, you can wear it on your belt. Yeah, I have this. This is an original. Wear it on your belt, show all your friends. ET sliding through the space. I don't know. I just loved ET. That was to me so important to have, and they didn't even come out with a good line.
Look, that's a mini
That's
playset.
my honorable mention.
That's
What?
a mini playset. I said that's
It is.
mini
That's funny. You're right. You do have that correct. He does fit in his spaceship, and it closes up and it flies away. So there you go. You're right.
What if they did that for every franchise you loved?
Maybe.
And then you could just have a belt, a bandolier.
Oh my God, a bandolier of many playsets of my favorite franchises made famous in the 80s. That's a good idea.
But all I wanted to know about this is if you had the finger and you didn't. So we'll move on to your next honorable.
Move on. Oh, Clash of the Titans, very similar to Battlestar Galactica. So movies being made into action figures. Star Wars did start that. So whether it was a movie or a TV show, Clash of the Titans line didn't get huge, but Perseus, Thallo, Calibos, and I think his name is Charon. I always say it wrong. Karen, the boat keeper. These two figures, big beasts, great. I had all four of the figures. Again, my mom wasn't big on buying bigger things. So loved having them, and they fit right in with everybody else. Honorable mention because they're memorable and they meant something to me. I'm connected to them.
Now, while you have Clash of the Titans out there, I will call out Captain McKay. I will recommend his channel because he does amazing stop motion. So, for big
wonderful
Harryhausen fan, he does a lot of great things. Not just modern day figures. He does a lot of Godzilla, King Kong. So you probably like his channel. I'll send it to you.
After McKay, that's cool. I didn't know that. As a matter of fact, I love stop motion. Now I see a lot of stop motion Transformers because I find it amazing when stop motion's a Transformer, right? It's incredible. But what a great segue, because of course Harryhausen. But that's a wonderful channel. I will check it out because I love the art of that so much.
But this Kraken is a grail, is it not? Or is it pretty cheap?
No, well, it can break really easy, and it often doesn't have the tail at the end. Does it look exactly like the movie? Pretty close. People don't realize, but this is a grail. You're not going to find this totally intact, but it isn't too expensive. It's not like some grails in Transformers.
Okay, so these are your two honorable mentions. You didn't have the ET finger, so that's lame.
I did have 4 of these figures, though.
These were cool. So,
all right.
Just generally speaking, I love fast food toys. Not today, because they suck.
They do.
But whether
they got that K-pop dance group now. A K-pop group is in the Happy Meal today, and I'm like, what the hell went wrong?
So in the last 2 years, they did make new McBuddies. So I don't eat McDonald's. I had to go get a bunch of Happy Meals. I ate it. I felt terrible after. And now they just came out with Ninja Turtle Hello Kitty. I went and got a few of those. I hated myself after I ate.
Can't you just buy the toy like we used to?
No, they don't let you anymore.
Really?
Yeah, they don't let you.
If they want money, they should go back to that. McDonald's,
Burger King probably had the best toys ever.
Absolutely.
Every now and then, Taco Bell would have great toys. Pizza Hut would have great toys. But I would say we had more fast food toys than normal toys. We lived right across the street from Burger King.
Oh my God.
We got off school early on Wednesdays. So Wednesday would be like McDonald's or Burger King day, which is crazy.
Got it. So you'd get some toys.
It was like an after school thing. And during the summer was the big Hot Wheels / Barbie promotions.
All right.
So we would go to McDonald's. Me and my brother would get the Hot Wheels. My mom collected all the Barbies.
Really?
Whenever there was a Disney movie, Burger King and McDonald's would fight to do it. And they would do amazing promotions. When the 101 live action movie came out, McDonald's did 101 separate Dalmatian toys.
I remember that very much, and I tried really hard, but I just bought the Dalmatian.
But My favorite, and I've talked about them on the channel a billion times, are the Halloween McBuddies. It's almost time for me to break them out of the attic and bring them out. Oh, there we go. Faded one. Let's see. Fun fact: McDonald's Happy Meal tie-in Mighty Morphin Power Rangers toys, but Super 7 reaction to shame. They did. I believe. Yep, they
I
did.
gotta see those. I have got to see those then, because reaction wonder if number one, it rapes you with money. That's
Yeah.
freaking ridiculous. So I'd love to see those.
They came. Each one of those came with a Zord.
Ooh, that's nice.
Really cool. But just in general, like this is a lost piece of time that is just not around anymore.
Well, kids
And-
want digital. That's we could make a whole nother show on that, because they don't want these, they want digital stuff. So they rarely get good toys in fast food.
I don't know. I think there's some, like, kids still want to feel something in their hand, tangible, right? But I don't know. I don't know. I think it's more just the fast food franchises. You know, they've gotten boring and stale over the years. They made their buildings boring because it's easier to sell. It's a real estate choice.
Well,
So they're
no,
not.
it's not just real. Now hold on. It's not only that, but you remember that they had to stop advertising to kids.
Oh yeah,
That was legal government stuff where they were like, nope, you cannot. If you can't, advertise to kids, they had to advertise it to adults, which made they had to look like coffee shops. So that's part of the problem. Is this was like, hey kids, come get a McBuddy. You can't do that anymore.
no.
That's why it's called the adult Happy Meal, because there's a lot to that.
And that's why all the Happy Meals that come out now, I mean, they're marketed towards adults. Like, there's no what kid is like, I want a Ninja Turtle Hello Kitty. But if you're a mental illness to Ninja Turtles fan like I am, then you're gonna go out and try to get everything Ninja Turtles. But anyway, just everything, movie promotions, show promotions, original characters, fast food franchise toys were the best. So
it's rare. It's rare to get a good one. This Power Ranger one sounds like it was very rare. Good point though, because McDonald's, you made a great video about your McDonald's turning haunted. So I love that. And you and I share we love one toy, Happy Meal toy, the changeables, the food product that transforms. I love those.
Yeah. I spent when we went to a con together, and I spent way too much money on those. But pretty sure half the toys on screen are buried in my mom's yard. Right? Oh,
right.
If they're marketing to adults, they might as well throw a beer at. I know McDonald's.
They won't spend for the liquor license.
A Happy Meal used to be $2.79.
Good Lord.
I don't know how much.
I remember the first themed Happy Meal, Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
I thought it was like the hand puppets.
No, now there was a Happy Meal before it, but the first themed one to a license was Star Trek: The Motion Picture. It's awesome. All right, what was after this? It's speaking of Power Rangers and that.
Yeah, so Power Rangers on the mind. This is an honorable mention just because I didn't have the Zords. I didn't have the plate set. I had the figures, and we had a lot of figures. We had the whole team, and then we had all the major villains. But because I didn't have that world building aspect, it was really not. It's not. I wouldn't say like a quintessential collection for me. There was a modern toy line for this. It died unceremonious.
They brought it back a couple times, haven't they? Or
now it's back, but it's not a collector
only. It's not.
Now it's like it's a kid line, but they're trying to get adults to buy it, and they just look terrible. Anyway, this toy line, the swappable, the flip head was super innovative at the time. You can go from like the unmasked head to the masked head. The articulation was great. We did have some role play items. You can buy the gloves, and if you went like this, it made that noise.
I remember those.
There was a little button, but it was just a great toy line. I think the colors pop of all the characters, so it was fun. I did wish we did have the Power Dome, and I wish we had the Zords. We had a friend who had the Megazord.
Yeah.
And it was this big box, and it was 5 Zords, and you had to put them together. His parents wouldn't let him play with it. So he would like take it out, put it together, show you, and then say, oh, my parents say I got to put it back in the box now. Insane. Really? But anyway, I think this was definitely one of the best toy lines Even though I didn't have everything, but it's an honorable mention because I think it was pretty innovative at the time. They came out with 12-inch figures, which were pretty
Yeah,
cool.
you're big.
But we like the flip heads and the character selection of villains. So that's my second honorable mention. We're gonna go on to your number one now.
All right.
We're gonna wrap this
You heard
thing
me
up.
hint to it. Obviously, my number one toy that made me is Masters of the Universe. You brought up a point about world building. It isn't my go-to answer for why something is, because I had many more figures of things. But in this case, I did have Castle Grayskull, and what a fantastic birthday that was. So I collect currently the Masters of the Universe Vintage Origins. I'm going to call it Vintage Origins now because they have the Origins cartoon collection. I just did a show on my channel. It went gangbusters, and people were really, they were pulled apart. They didn't like what I was saying. A lot of people understood. What I'm saying is they have the vintage line, they have the cartoon collection, they have collaborations, and they have the Masterverse line. And there's too many, and it dilutes the fact that we just simply wanted to finish one line. And Mattel would be smart, finish one line and start focusing on the others instead of leaving us all to, as Thomas said a minute ago, to just putting out the same characters over and over. We want to see a line finish so we can have this whole collection. And instead, they start a new line and they use the basics. But Masters of the Universe is so special because when it came out with no accompanying media. And I got that stuff. I got He-Man and Skeletor its first year. I didn't know what they were, who they were. And I looked down and was like, these are incredible. And I don't know why. There is this barbarian guy and a skeleton face, and I wanted them all. And I got so many of them growing up. But that birthday where I got Castle Grayskull, I was so shocked. My brother and sister put it together the minute I saw it, because it was actually hidden in the room. It was hidden in my house. And the minute I found it, they were like, "Yeah, he found it." And they jumped on it and they put it together for me. But I didn't care. I played with it and I loved it. So He-Man, Battle Cat, Skeletor, the whole thing. I actually was a member of the Masters of the Universe. I had a subscription to the magazine. So I had a monthly magazine come with awesome artwork. And then, of course, I watched the cartoon. It wasn't exactly what I hoped it would be because it didn't follow the mythos of the toys, but still had a great impact on me. I like fantasy. I like sci-fi fantasy, and that was really what it was doing to me. So truly most impactful, just in front of Transformers.
And we missed the boat after the universe, but we had older cousins where I would see the characters and I knew they were around. I just didn't know too much about them. But it's funny. So my fiance's has an older brother who is, I'd say, maybe late Gen X, early millennial, and all he wanted for Christmas was a Castle Grayskull.
Oh,
I think at the time, the parents couldn't afford it, so they bought him like a secondhand one, and it did, and he knew it like wasn't new. He still gets raked over the coals for this. He like got so mad he threw it down a flight of stairs
because it was not new.
It's like a hand-me-down.
Oh, I would have taken it. Most of my clothes were hand-me-downs, for God's sake. That's terrible.
Years later, they came out with the Christmas ornament. We bought him that and said, "Here's your Castle Grayskull."
When you think of play sets, you've talked about the Firehouse is definitely often on top 10 lists of play sets. You always get Castle Grayskull. You often get the USS Flag from G.I. Joe, the aircraft carrier, but Castle Grayskull is going to be on it. A lot to do with, wow, this was big. It had a lot of features. It worked perfectly with the line. It was so new and exciting. So it really goes down in history as one of the favorites, even if it doesn't have every bell and whistle, it's still one of the best.
I'm surprised. Do you have all the new remastered Snake Mountain?
I do. So I do. You see Castle Grayskull. This is the Origin. So Mattel Origins, Vintage Line Castle Grayskull. I have the new Fright Zone, which is here. That's Hordak's area there. But I had to move my Snake Mountain. It is above me on the left. It's huge. It's just ginormous. I couldn't fit it on that shelf. So I do have the 3 play sets, and then I have all of the vintage characters. Now I do get they are articulate. They look almost identical, Thomas. They just have more articulation. So they do look like the first ones. They don't have a modern face. They really are they look like those. And so since I got the toys first, that's what I knew. I had the toys before the cartoon. So in my brain, that's the toy I want to see. Even if I did watch the cartoon, which I did, I wanted the ones that look like like the toy. And you said it yourself, they made the one that worked for me, the best one I need, the best version of it.
Yeah. No Eternia? You don't have Eternia?
Oh, I didn't buy that. First, no floor space, but I wanted that. Oh man, I wanted it. That's a lot of money. That was a lot of money.
My mental illness would have kicked in and I would have bought it. So.
Nope. I have the ability to turn that off. There are other things that I must do, but damn, it's so cool.
I think it's a great number one. It's a great number one because it's not my number one, and I think that again that goes to the balance of you do like franchises that I know nothing about, so I think you can help fill in that gap of my knowledge. I am surprised you did not have Thundercats on any of your top 10.
Yeah, now I do have them. They are also right here. You can see all the Thundercat Ultimates. So I did get Thundercats Ultimates, and then in back of them is the vintage Mum-Ra playset, his tomb, which, like your Batman, you could put Mum-Ra in it and spin him, and he would be Mum-Ra the Ever Living. There's a reason for that. That did come pretty late. It came in '85, and although I was still playing with toys and I did collect toys, I was in this mindset of like, I love these guys, but I'm so busy getting He-Man, G.I. Joe, and Transformers that I loved the cartoon. So I never bought a toy. And then, of course, at a point there was you're getting no more toys. There's no more toys. You can't have them. So howdy, rowdy. So then I went ahead and said when I was an adult, I'm getting the Thundercats. And that went for Mask as well. Mask was a major, not Mask the green face guy, Mask Mobile Armored Strike Command by Kenner, which I have every one of. Those are all original. So I have all the original pieces down below, including Boulder Hill playset right over there. So I didn't put them on my list because they aren't the Impact, the toys that made us.
Yeah.
They're the toys that make me now because I wanted them then.
That makes sense. And before I go to my number one, answer this question. Am I the only friend in real life that walks into your toy room and actually looks at stuff?
No, not even friends. I just had carpet put down. People come in here, guys come in here to put the carpet down, and they were like, oh my God. It doesn't matter who, they love it. So people come in, friends or contractors, and they come in the house and they're blown away by it. So now you've been in the room itself and you've been here and seen it. I'm very defined. I'm very definite collector, and I still have a few more to get, but that's it. That's what I want. I'll get things on a whim. Sometimes I even just get an extra for the fun of it, but this is what I want. This is what I'm getting. I did want to address Spaded One brought up the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So did they try to do something like Origins and then it just didn't work?
Yeah, I think they did kind of a redo where they made it better, but they released the old looking figures with like better articulation.
Yeah, I think I saw them.
But they put like these it almost looks like the figures have pores. It's terrible. Oh. So they just re-released a box set where they're smooth, so they don't look like, like gross. And then they added a Shredder in the group and another character, I think it's Splinter. But yeah, so maybe there's too many turtle lines. I can't go deep into it, but I almost bought them and I said I don't need it. But that brings me to my number one.
You're a huge turtle fan.
I don't think it's a surprise, but
no, but that's cool segue, and they're making them now. So tell us about it.
Yeah, so Turtles, there's a huge gap of collecting I have. So Star Wars Episode 3, I collected everything for Star Wars Episode 3, and at that time I was going off to college. We were moving all the time, and then I was moving to Florida. I moved to Florida as like a 19-year-old kid by myself. So at the time, like my collecting was non-existent because it's like, I need to move with less stuff.
Right.
So, I moved to Florida, got myself situated with a job and housing and whatever, for like a 10-year period where I was like renting. I just didn't collect anything. When I finally bought my house and I'm like, okay, I bought the house. At the same time, NECA came out with the movie figures, and I just couldn't help myself. So I ended that. Episode 3 came out in 2005. So 2005 until 2019, I just didn't collect anything. So that's a huge gap. So from 2019 until now, this was all accumulated since then. That's what got me back into collecting because of my love for turtles. But that was also the first time that like movie turtles were made straight from the screen, and I love them. But the original turtle line, I think, was the first. I don't remember a time without turtles. And I think you had the vehicles, you had multiple play sets, you had tons of characters that weren't on the show, vehicles that were just made for fun because like they let the artists go wild and do things. But you had things that were on the show, they just didn't look like they were. They just didn't look like they did on the show, which is now why the NECA line is so great with the Toon line. But this was really the Barbie of male collecting or boy collecting, right? Because after they did the characters in their normal attire, that's when you started getting into the rock and roll turtles, which I have a picture of them. You had the Wacky West turtles. You had the sewer spitting turtles, which had like a beach vibe. But they did military turtles. They did Star Trek. They did astronauts, dinosaurs. The line went crazy, and it was just so much fun. And I think that big gap of not collecting, it immediately went back to turtles. So I owe it all to the original turtle line. This was really my childhood, and then my gateway into adult collecting. So that's how it all started. That's how it all began as a kid, and that's how it began as an adult collector. So to come full circle, this is what got me back into the line. Newer versions of the turtles that we never got. We never got cartoon accurate turtles, and we never got movie accurate turtles. So
You mean these aren't cartoon accurate from the top right?
No. The ones that top right, they kind of resembled the cartoon, but not really. They had the
one's a little too green, but
yeah, like none. I think the only characters that kind of match the cartoon are April, Bebop, and Rocksteady, and the Foot Soldiers. But like Shredder looked different.
Shredder looks totally different. I even know it because it's on MeTV. So now Turtles play on my TV every day.
Yeah. But I mean, it's such an endearing line, and you think of like it keeps reinventing itself and coming back. The 1987 cartoon, which is subjectively not good, but the 2003 cartoon is amazing. Animation's great, the storyline's great. The 2012 CGI cartoon, that one's great. I did like a little bit of the two latest generations, not as much, but it keeps growing, it keeps reinventing itself. I think I'm coming towards the end of my turtle collecting because I think there's only a few characters that I want, but really it all started with this, and then my adult collecting started with this. So Ninja Turtles #1, no big surprise since most of the dioramas I built are turtle related.
True.
So that is it. So
you and Spaded One, if you can fight me all you want, because I'm going to say it. This is your Motu, because Masters of the Universe died in 1987. I mean, it died, but from 1982 to 87, they were the most money-making line of all, and they had a lot more characters. Like you kept saying, they repeated. They the rock and roll, the this and that. Motu had so many unique characters. These guys kind of stuck with the same core, and they reintroduced and reinvented them a lot, which made for an exciting way to get new characters of the same, for sure. So, yeah. But I do look at them that way. I look at them like, yeah, Motu had ended. The Turtles came on. I wasn't interested in them. I thought there was a passing fancy of like, what is that? But yeah, that wasn't my style of thing. Plus the artwork on Motu was beautifully painted, and these looked much more comic, which is where they came from. They came from comic books. So they are definitely, I think, a newer version of Millennials. Motu, yeah. Master of the Universe.
I would argue, I mean, the card backs for these are, if you go back and look at them, they had great style. They look beautiful.
Very unique style of their own. Yeah,
very cool. So all right, that brings us to the end.
Yes.
Our list.
That is the toys that made us. Some honorable mentions in there, but that's my top 10. We had some crossover with G.I. Joe. Yeah. Right? That was the main crossover, to be honest.
I think so. But
I think it is.
I think we make an hour.
What?
I think we thought this would be an hour long, but
you know, you made it top 10. So I know people can make these videos for hours on end. That you know, that's a lot. But we kept some people's interest, I hope.
Yeah. But anyways, hey, for our first one, I think this was a great getting to know you. Hopefully one of many more. Everyone that's currently watching, thank you for watching. Thank you for hanging
Those
in
of you
there.
who stayed with us, thank you very much. And for commenting, we tried really hard to be involved with that. So hopefully you'll come back and we will have a whole different subject. And actually, we're gonna do, I think, multiple subjects next time, right? Not this was this introduction.
Yeah, no, we'll do top tens, but not all the time.
Got it.
All right. Well, hey, thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Oh, wait, are you doing a show coming up soon on your, you know, another show?
I'm gonna kick it over to you to do
Oh,
yours.
okay. Well, yeah, it's Halloween season. So if you go over to the Gen Experience, you're going to check out Scoob's Spookiest Mysteries. So check out a little haunted Halloween with Scooby Doo coming this Friday, if I can freaking do it, because he's taken 2 hours of my time. So
Yeah.
now I got to get busy.
So I'm going to put a link to Victor's channel in the description. So if you want to check him out, please go and do so. He has some really great content there. What am I doing next? I don't know. I'm lazy. I just want to do that. I just want to sit and talk.
Wow.
So, you know,
Half-ass.
no, this is all I wanted to do. And talking to the camera by myself is not fun. So I'll just say that.
It's not fun. I love talking to a camera. Hey.
But anyways,
Thanks,
guys,
everybody.
have a great night. Happy Tuesday. Hope you all have a good one. And catch you next time.
Bye now.
Are we still on?